All right. Open Championship talk, also known as the British Open. Nobody says the British Open anymore, do they, Jan?
No, they don't like to call it that now. They want to call it the world champion, the Open champion. So I still try to call it. A lot of the players still call it the British, but they get in trouble because they're not supposed to.
Why?
Well, they want it to be the Open, which I think is silly because if I think of any Open, I think of the U.S. Open, but
Yeah.
they wanted to. That's the new title.
Oh,
Yeah,
so the Open, not even
yeah. They
like the
want it
Open
to be called
Championship.
the champion golfer of the year. That's what they. That's why they do it. It's the Open.
Okay. Whatever they say. That's hey, you know what? They're open.
Yeah,
So
I mean the players all still call it the British.
they do. Okay.
Yeah, you always say I'm going for the British or something.
Okay.
But I heard they're not going to. A lot of them are not going to play. You heard about the new tax they brought in. So
No.
they
Play
brought
what?
a new tax in. Like say Ricky Fowler, right? He won 46,000 last week in the Scottish, but he was there a week before so that he could go to Wimbledon. And they wanted him and Jordan and Justin Thomas all went to the Wimbledon and to watch for a week. Well, the new tax law in England is, I mean, it's already 50%. So even though everywhere else in the world, when you play for the US, when you play on the tour, you're in any states, your money is not, you don't actually get the money till after you've left the state. And it goes into like a kind of like a cloud. The PGA, because there's no tax in Florida, the PGA Tour takes the money then and then disperses it. So then the players only pay tax from their own personal tax. Excepting when you play England, Japan, and Australia, when you play internationally, they take a tax because they say you've earned it in that country. And so, except for California, everywhere else in America, you don't have to do that. You can just file your usual taxes. Well, the English tax now is over a certain amount is 50%. So he over the 46,000, he was over 46,000, but the new tax is that you get taxed on your endorsement money pro rata of every day you spend in England or in Britain. So he has a contract with Rocket Mortgage, and so they prorate every one of their endorsement contracts. So he won 46,000, but he was taxed over 60,000. So they're all saying they're not going, and that's not counting their expenses. They went in a private plane, they rented a big house. So they're saying that if that tax continues and they don't get around it, they're not coming next year. There's a quiet boycott on it.
So is this new?
Yes,
And why did they decide to do this? Is this like personal?
it's the English IRS, whatever that
Oh,
is.
the English IRS. Okay. Well,
The British IRS, whatever they're called.
hey, if they all stand together and say we're all not coming, then the British IRS better straighten that out.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to be an issue.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, everybody knows when you go to Australia that you get taxed pretty high too. And Japan, same thing.
Well, look, that'll and maybe they're doing it on purpose because one of the trends that I noticed this week was how many players actually played the Scottish Open before winning the Open Championship.
Well,
So,
they made it an official event on the PGA Tour so
yeah,
that they could get that to happen.
even
They were trying
better.
to book the DP Tour. Yeah.
8 of the last 12 winners, including the last 2 of the Open Championship or the Open, played in the Scottish Open the week before.
Wow.
So, maybe what they're doing is they're going to pressure these guys out. That's just going to scare. So the PGA Tour guys don't get ready. So then the DP World Tour guys have a better chance of winning the
Yeah, I
Open
mean,
Championship.
definitely acclimatizing yourself in time ways because I know when I played over there was a British Open at the time, in the Women's British Open, that it was really hard to get, because you're on American time just for that 1 week. It's so hard to get to sleep, and then you have an early tee time, and it's really hard to get going. Like if the guys that have come over, I'm sure they've come a few days early, but you look at the ones that have early tee times, they're like, say someone from John Rahm that came from Arizona or California, and then they get there and he has a 2 o'clock in the morning tee time, equal to a 2 o'clock in the morning. That can weigh on you when you're trying to. It's cold and miserable, and I used to, because it's different when you go to Australia and Japan to play. It's the opposite. You fall asleep early and you wake up early, which is much easier to play golf to than going the other way. Going east is really hard to do.
Okay. Well, we're not going to spend any time at all about, because it probably wouldn't be good for my psyche, talk about what happened on Sunday morning. We got robbed of 3 straight, Jared. So
Yep,
what
sure
happened
did.
on Sunday morning?
I thought you had it.
I had McIntyre as one of my picks.
Oh,
and
wow.
Rory just decides to birdie the last 2. So
that was 2 actually really hot holes too.
Yeah, and I'm sure the fans at Scotland really appreciated that. So I think Rory just lost half his fan base in Scotland
Yeah.
for doing that.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And look, it is hard to win back to back. I mean, Mickelson was the last one to do it. He won the Scottish Open back in 2013, followed it up with the Open Championship win. So it's not something that's done easily, is winning an event the week before and then winning a major championship. It's a rare thing. It happens. It's not rare, but it happens, but it's just not statistically something that usually does occur. So
I agree. Those 2 things are hard to do: defend and back to back.
You would know. So we'll see. And by the way, Jared, we've been saying this for the past 2 or 3 weeks, going over futures for the Open Championship. And for the past month, Rory McIlroy was the favorite for 1 full month. And we just kept saying, ain't going to happen. You watch when we do the show to preview the event a few days before. The worst case, it'll be even between Scheffler and McIlroy. And all of a sudden, for the first time, Scotty Scheffler is now the favorite at 7-1 as far as DraftKings is concerned. So every sports book's going to be a little bit different. But as far as DraftKings is concerned, he's the favorite, and Rory's at 8-1.
Wow.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping to get like a 10 or 11-1 on Scheffler, but
that was no such luck.
That was never going to happen.
No.
Rahm's the one that's kind of drifted now. I think 13-1 is about the biggest number we've seen on Rahm in a while.
Wow, that's actually, I would think that this would be a good one for Rahm, because he did, he quit when he was playing pretty badly for him. And then he's had a few weeks off. And I think of any one of the championships he wants to win now that he's won an Open and he's won the Masters now. This, I would think, being European, I think this is huge. He really wants this one.
He's got the major this year, though. If Scotty doesn't, and of course Rory hasn't had one for 10 years, which is amazing.
I think it'll be exactly 10 years if he doesn't win this.
Was this the last one?
10 seasons. It'll have been 10 seasons without a major if he doesn't win this one.
But this is where he won the last one, right?
Yes. Yep.
Or did he win at St. Andrews?
No, he won here in
Liverpool.
Was it 2014? Yeah, 2014.
So this is actually the very last major that he's won. Very interesting. All right. Well, it could be some karma in a positive way.
It's a good course for him when you think about it. And he's used to cold weather,
Yeah, he showed it again last week. I mean, if you look at it, Rory, his last previous win before this was a DP Tour World event, I believe. So he had won Dubai. He won Dubai early in the year. I don't know if that was January. And he also I mean, you have to go back to that CJ Cup in South Carolina, which was his last PGA Tour win last year. So the last 2 wins have not been in the States for Rory, but it wasn't like it was a long time ago. The CJ Cup was late in the year last year or so. And we'll see. I look, either way, I actually think this should be a benefit for him, Jared, though, because getting a win is important for Rory. He's had so many chances, and I think that was important. And I actually think he has a better chance to win now this week, tell you the truth, that he won on Sunday.
Yeah, I don't think the fact that he won last week changes his chances of winning this week, but it just changes the odds that we're getting on him, right? Like
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I actually think it might give him some confidence because there was so much pressure on him to win, and and he's clearly playing well. I think that's good. And I noticed that he canceled doing any press conference. He didn't even do a pre-press conference.
Okay. All right. So I might as well just ask you guys, what do you think, Scheffler or McIlroy? Jan?
That's a hard one because I think Scheffler's got more shot with the green because the greens there are only 11. They don't step very fast. So you know how he has trouble with those little 4-foot right to lefters that are tricky ones. It seems like he just pulls them just a little bit. That is going to help him because he can be more aggressive. So I think that's his only weakness. That and when it rains because he slips with his way his feet work on his golf swing, it makes him hit the ball left when he slips. But I think that was at the PGA when it started raining and he kept slipping. But that's a toughie. Those two are both. I mean, I don't think you'd go wrong with either of those two. But I've actually been underestimating Scheffler all year, and it's been wrong. So I still think
he hasn't won a big one yet, though. I mean, he did win the Players, but he hasn't won the major. And
yeah,
I'd like to see him win, so I'm going to go with Scheffler.
He's just too hot, Jared.
Yeah, it's Scheffler for me. And the ball striking numbers, like Rory's ball striking numbers have been awesome, but Scheffler's have just been at another level really all season. And I'm pulling up the numbers now. So what Jan mentioned about the slow green. So if you look at the last 2 years on slow or average speed greens, Scheffler has gained 0.2 strokes putting per round. On fast greens, he's lost 0.2 strokes putting per round. So it's not a huge difference, but he has been better on slower greens.
You even have that stat? That's amazing.
Fantasy National. They have all this stuff. It's an awesome site. So if he can just putt average, I think he's the clear favorite to win this thing.
Well, he's only. I guess the thing is he doesn't have the experience. Of course, he doesn't play a lot overseas. He's not even like a Jon Rahm. He doesn't really get much of that. He hasn't had that experience, but
he should be good on these type of courses, right? He has the creativity and the touch around the greens that I think you need. Like, there's no reason he shouldn't be good on links courses.
I agree. He's got a really good chipping action.
I haven't looked at this, but somebody needs to come up with it. Maybe we'll hear it on the Golf Channel. They've got the people that should be putting this stuff together. But I don't think I've ever seen anything like what Scheffler's done. 19 straight top 15s, Jan.
That's unbelievable.
That has to be a record.
That has to be a record, especially when you're talking about the caliber of golf.
And nowadays,
that's the thing. He hasn't won a major, but look how he's played in the majors, in the last, 6 or 7 majors. It's been unbelievable. I mean, that's not putting well. I mean, he doesn't want to admit that he's not putting. He always says there's nothing wrong with my stroke. I'm misreading him, or my speed is off. I think there is a technical problem with his stroke. I've been saying this. I can see it. It's kind of like his golf swing, and he starts the ball a little bit left of where he's aimed, more so on a right to left putt. So obviously it's exaggerated, and I can't believe they don't say anything. But he spends hours and hours on that machine. The one with not the machine, but it's got the mirror on it, and he does do a lot of technical putting with that. But I just can't believe that nobody can see that he cuts across it on the little right to lefters every now and then when it's, but like you said, when it gets fast.
Out of those 19 top 15s, he has 7 of those are top 5s. And I think he has
He has,
actually seven straight.
He has 7 straight top 5s.
7 straight top 5s.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, which is crazy.
And think of those putts he missed coming down the stretch.
Yep.
Yeah, it is weird. It's like I think the one thing he hasn't done though yet in this run. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I haven't seen him with the lead and then lose it. You know, it's like he always seems to be in that top 5, top 3, second, but I don't see him. Hey, he's got the lead and then he blows it. It's like if he gets the lead, you get the feeling that okay, now he's in control. But that's the thing that we haven't seen yet is that he's just so consistent, but he just can't take that lead for whatever reason. I'm sure the putting is letting him down. By the way, what about his swing, Jan? Jared and I brought this up a few weeks ago. He's got the weirdest swing for someone that is so good. Like it's just, you would think if you would look at his swing and think that no way this guy is one of the top players or the top player in the world with that swing. There's just no way. And yet it works.
Well, it kind of reminds me a little bit, but not as bad as Jim Furyk's. But look at that. I mean, if you try to fix his swing, it would be a major overhaul. You know, like Ricky had to change his swing because he was too laid off and too shut. And it's worked. I mean, look how long it took him, a couple of years to get it. I mean, Scheffler would have to, he's had this swing from, you look at when he was in college and when he was a junior, he's had that same swing. The thing that he has a huge advantage is that he gets his arms really high, so he has an enormous arc on the way down. And he spins out really quickly, but he saves it by sliding his right leg behind him so he doesn't spin his hips all the way. Because and I mentioned this before, remember at the PGA when it was raining and he kept slipping just a little bit with that back foot.
Yeah.
And it was making the ball go left, because if he doesn't hold off his hips at impact and slide that right leg back, he would hit it left to left to left. And so to change his golf swing would ruin him for years.
Yeah, there's no reason to.
He's had it from, like, there's pictures of him junior golf with the same swing. So it actually can make up for it. It's kind of like Hovland. I mean, Hovland's got, I think, an incorrect golf swing, right? He goes really inside and comes over the top, and he matches it up and holds it off and times it. But when you have a chip shot, you can't time it. You don't have enough time to fix the mistakes that he does. And that's one of the reasons I think he fights bunkers and pitching, is he's got to have two different actions. That's hard to do.
I got no problem with just about anybody else, but not Scheffler. No, do not change your swing, because that's not what's the reason he's losing or not completing. It's the putting right now. So I don't care how ugly it looks. If he changes that, he needs his head examined.
Well, I don't think he is going to change it.
Yeah.
How do you change it when he's leading in?
He can't.
From tee to green. I mean, he's still probably, I don't know, Jared will have the facts for sure, but it's probably top 5.
The tee to green stretch he's on this season is the best of all time. It's better than what we even saw from Tiger at his peak.
There you go.
It's the best of all time.
Yeah. I don't think they would even consider changing it. They just go with it.
We thought the same thing about Padraig Harrington when he was at the top of his game, winning back-to-back Open Championships, and then like a few months later, I'm going to change my swing. And then he was done. We never heard from him really again. He was never at the top of his game ever again.
Well, he's actually playing well again now.
He is.
Yeah.
He is. I've been saying for the last few weeks, he's going to be one of my long shot picks this week. But yeah, he lost his game completely for doing that. And that's why it's just a risky proposition. So, all right. Next group. How about Rahm, defending champ Cam Smith, or Brooks Koepka, the PGA Championship winner from this year? So you got two major winners this year and the defending champ in this threesome. Who would you go with, Jared?
I actually don't love Cam Smith at this course. I think, and I'm curious to get Jan's take on this, I think it's more of an accuracy course off the tee, the exact opposite of St. Andrews. So I worry about Cam off the tee here. I would lean towards Rahm over Brooks. Like, Brooks has the better major resume. I still think Rahm is the better player, so I would lean towards Rahm in this group.
Absolutely, totally agree. I think Jon Rahm is such a good driver of the ball. I mean, the last few tournaments that he played, he drove it poorly for him. It's the most fairways I've seen him miss. So I'm sure that he's taken some time and got that fixed. But his golf swing technically, and I always say the cream comes to the top. The technical swings are always going to do well when it's like the driving is accuracy is important. At the PGA, it wasn't important. Power was important there because they widened the fairways. Here, it's definitely off the tee, so you got to go with Jon Rahm.
All right, next group. My pick since January: Hovland, Schauffele, or Ricky. Coming off that U.S. Open final round falter, still won a few weeks later. So you got Ricky, Schauffele, and Hovland. Jan, which one of those three would you go with this week?
Well, I don't think it's a good course for Schauffele. I mean, he's kind of having an okay year, even though he's in the top 10. I would think it's definitely between Hovland drives it well, but I don't know. I'd actually might give it to Ricky. Ricky doesn't drive it that accurate, but he's really confident right now.
Yeah, well, remember we mentioned this as well, and I'm sure this is going to be a big topic this week, that Ricky was runner-up at Liverpool in 2014. So that is going to come into play, I'm sure. Jared, who would you go with?
Yeah, I'm a sucker for Xander. He's fifth best he's fifth best at the Open over the last 5 years. Why don't you think it's a good course fit for him, Jan?
You do think it's a good fit?
I was asking you why you don't think it's a good fit for him. What about the course?
I actually think that he is a warm weather player, even though he's done well at the major. I think he did well at the British or the Open the last few years, right?
He's been okay,
he has a
He was runner-up once, and that was his only top 10.
Well, because I just feel like he's really a good warm weather player, and so that part pushes me off. And I mean, I do like the fact that he hits the slight fade like Rahm. I think that's an advantage at this golf course. This course, I mean, it's a long time since I played it, but I remember the players that played well hit the ball left to right. I actually missed the cut there because it was miserable weather. So I swore I'd never go back to another British Open after that. When I peeled off my rain gear and my cashmere and my underwear was wet, I went, that's enough. I'm never coming back.
By the way, also, Hovland has only played twice, 12th and 4th last year. And as good as Scheffler's on a run, as epic a run Scheffler's on, Hovland's on a pretty good run himself. He hasn't missed a cut since last year's Scottish Open. So he's playing well. Cam Smith, and this is important to note too, Cam Smith, when he won last year, his previous best result at the Open Championship was 20th. So he didn't have a great Open Championship resume, still won last year. Jon Rahm has only one top 10 in the Open Championship. That was a third.
That's really quite a shock.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, he's got finishes of 34th, 44th, 59th, and a missed cut at the Open Championship, which is very surprising considering how well he plays over there. Brooks.
That is very surprising.
Brooks has 4 top 10s in 8, but just 1 top 5 in Open Championships. Okay. Oh, and Ricky has 3 top 10s out of 11, and overall, he's got 10 top 20s in his last 12 on the year with 5 top 10s, 2 top 5s, and of course, the big win. Okay. By the way, before you go to the next group, you guys, Jared, you were talking about the last 5 years. One of your stats this week: total strokes gained at the Open the last 5 years. So you have Schauffele 5th. And you have a couple of big names in there, but you have some interesting names. First of all, Jordan's at the top, which really shouldn't be a surprise. He's really solid at this event. But Fleetwood, who, yes, should be no surprise, will be one of my picks this week. Rory's the big name there at 3rd. But then you also have Finau in that group, Shane Lowry, Francesco Molinari, and Robert McIntyre.
Huh.
Yeah, man, I wish McIntyre hadn't played so well last week, because he would have been a nice long shot. If he hadn't played well last week, he would have been 100-1 for this. But
He
now
was
I think he's like,
130-1 last week.
What
yeah,
is
we
he
should have bet that.
He's 80 now.
70 or 75. Yeah. But just still okay. I mean, he's playing well, because he almost won the DP Tour World event prior to the Genesis, so he's playing well.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's important. It really is for the main. You've still got to come in form. It's rare for you not to be, not be in form and then come good.
Yeah, I guess if you look at some of the players that have won regarding form, we talked about being at the Scottish Open, which helps. Also, 7 of the last 9 winners had a top 15 in their event prior to winning. So that's a high percentage coming in with a good finish. 2 of those won, by the way, during that stretch. And Spieth, as we just mentioned, is number 1 in Jared's stat strokes gained the last 5 years. The last player to win the Open Championship coming off a win. He had won the Travelers a month prior, took a month off basically, and then played the Open Championship and won. So he's the last one to go back-to-back. I mentioned Mickelson being the last one to go back-to-back weeks, being, of course, I think, what was that, 2013. And also important is the fact that you want to play pretty well in majors that year. The last 10 winners had a no worse than 24th result in any prior major that year. So make sure you have some sort of positive result in the major. And that's important, of course, because you have to show that you can play with the big boys. It's very hard to do, like, say, what Ben Curtis did in 2003 and win your first pro event of any kind, and it happened to be a major. That was crazy, wasn't it, Jan? Ben Curtis back in 2003?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he did well after that, did he?
No, I think he won maybe one other event, maybe 2, not sure. But no, yeah, he kind of disappeared.
Happen very often.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, that was nuts. Okay, so let's go back to the groups and let's take a look next. How about Hatton, Fleetwood, or Cantlay? So Hatton and Fleetwood, these guys are just so close, and they can't bust down the door. What did you see Hatton on Sunday? He's got the lead, and he's got a birdie putt from like 40, 50 yards, and he's short, and then the camera's on him, and he's like yelling at something. He's going crazy about something. I'm like, what the hell's wrong? You got the lead, dude. Chill out. And then, sure enough, he goes up and misses the putt, and then he was done.
Funny.
Done, and he was done after that.
Yeah, but he's actually one of the few players that can get upset and actually helps him. You know how, like, we always say that in tennis it might help you to get angry or to get upset, but it doesn't in golf. Except for him, it seems like it does. He can shake it off, even though he's mad at himself, and then he shakes it off. I mean, like, he missed that putt, like you said, but he's just so entertaining, and he's so talented. I love his golf swing. I really think that Tommy wants it so bad. If he had won the last few weeks in America, I think it would have been easier for him to do it.
Yeah.
But now he's got the added pressure of being at home. No Englishman's won in forever, and so, or even done that well. So he's got so much pressure riding on it that I think someone like Terrell's got much more chance.
Yeah, that's because, I mean, and one more trend I'm going to throw out there, and this is exactly along the lines of what you're talking about. 10 of the last 11 first-time winners of the Open Championship earned at least one pro win during the same year before winning. And that includes 4 of the last 8 having 2 wins, like Cam Smith last year. So considering it's so late in the season, it's different than the other majors. This is one of those, like, this is a major championship, and you not only need to be playing well, but you better have had a win that year, which is why we all agreed it helped McIlroy last week. And I agree with you. I just hadn't had good results before. He's got 3 top 15s in his last 6 Open Championships, and he's on a run of 9 straight top 35s with 4 top 5s and a runner-up, 6th last week. Fleetwood, meanwhile, top 6s, he's got 3 of them in the last 4 events. 4th here last year in this event, 2nd in 2019. He's got 3 top 15s in his last 4 Open Championships, which is why he's got the total strokes gained stat that Jared mentioned. Cantlay, on the other hand, 8th last year, which was his best finish. Who are you going with in that group, Jared?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Cantlay, and I don't feel great about it because he seems like he's been underwhelming in majors, but I just think he's too good not to win one. I think this course sets up really nice for him again. If it is more accuracy off the tee, he's as accurate as they come. He's actually 2nd in strokes gained off the tee this season. Scotty Scheffler is 1, Patrick Cantlay is 2. He's also 18th on approach, and again, I just think he's one of the more accurate drivers among the top end players. So I'm going to give Cantlay another shot, even though he's burned me too many times in majors.
Yeah, he's been disappointing. I mean, I thought once he took Tiger's caddy, but I don't know whether that was putting pressure on him to do that, but because he is a top caddy that any top player would want. But I'm disappointed in Cantlay, but and again, that's one of the things with that threesome you talked about, Greg, is that Fleetwood hits it right to left. I still think that this is a left to right golf course. So Terrell hits it left to right, so does Cantlay. Well, Cantlay hits it pretty straight, but he tends to hit it left to right more now than he did before.
Yeah, Cantlay hasn't won this year either, and neither is Fleetwood or Hatton. So they all don't have a win. The next, I'll tell you what, let's put up Fitzpatrick versus the veteran Justin Rose. So Rose was 23rd at Liverpool in 14. He's missed 2 of his last 3 cuts. Not good. Runner-up in this event in 2018, which is by far his best finish, of course, since he's never won. Only 3 top 10s in 19 Open Championships, which is a big surprise for Justin Rose. But Fitzpatrick being 50-1, 21st last year, does not have a top 15 in 7 Open Championships, though, and he's not exactly playing well if it wasn't for that RBC win. But he does have a win. Who would you go with, Jan, between Rose or Fitzpatrick?
I would probably do Fitzpatrick because I think Rose doesn't hit it quite long enough right now. I think it's going to be a long golf course with it being wet. So I'm going to go with Fitzpatrick.
I would go Rose, and I think Fitzpatrick is the better player overall. But I don't know if you guys caught Fitzpatrick's press conference. I think it was yesterday. He basically said he's searching for his game right now. He said he'd be happy with the top 30.
Oh here. Wow! Oh my God!
Which is not what you want to hear.
Oh, I want to take that back, Ray.
Yeah, and it's surprising. Fitzpatrick actually hasn't been a good links player for whatever reason.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would go Rose for this one.
I mean, you're right, because he does play better in America. I mean, he likes the ball in the air, stopping, spinning back. Well, I mean, Rose definitely he's such a nice guy. It's nice to see him having a good year.
Yep.
All right. What about the Live 3? Dustin Johnson, Patrick Reed, or DeChambeau? Jan, who would you go with, DeChambeau, Reed, or DJ this week? Well,
I took DJ in my fantasy thing, only because I've already used. I like Bryson. I don't know if you noticed, but his swing is getting back to the old swing that I used to like. He's lost a bunch of weight. He's really not trying to be the long driver anymore, thank goodness, because that's what ruined his golf swing in the first place. So I like him, and I like Patrick Reed, but I'm going to go with Dustin. I think, again, left to right, long golf course and a left to right hitter. I think that's good for him. He does better on slow greens also.
Yeah, this would definitely be DJ for me too. 6th and 8th in his last 2 appearances at the Open. He came 12th when it was here back in 2014, and even he was in the mix for a little while there at the U.S. Open, which was good to see. So he seems to be trending in the right direction.
Yeah, DeChambeau was 8th last year, so that was his best finish. and you're getting good odds with DeChambeau. What is he, like 60-1? Something
He's
like
60-1.
that. DeChambeau, yeah,
I think
he's
so.
in that
Yeah.
range. He is 65-1 right now.
So that's on draft. Is that on DraftKings?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much where he is. I think you can probably at 50-1 at some other places, but it's a high number, no question. We haven't even gotten to the really high guy, which is on Jared's list. Last one, Homer, Spieth, Homer or Spieth. Let's just go with those two. Homer or Spieth?
I'm going with Homer. I think Homer's ready to break through again. He's had
I hope so.
He's had a dead run for a little while, but he's just starting to pick it up again. The last couple of weeks, I think he took some weeks off when he missed a cut at the Open, and then he's kind of working his way back. I think he's a little bit of a left-right. I like him for this, even for this event.
Yeah, Spieth 9 for 9 cuts the Open Championship, 17 champ, 8th last year, 5 top 10s and 9 with 3 top 5s, a runner-up and a win. So he's actually, I think, statistically better here than the Masters. He has missed 2 cuts though, and 2 straight, 3 out of 4 on the year. So that's not good. Hasn't been the same since the injury. But I agree with you with Homer, so much so, Jan, that I actually put Homer in my picks this week. I think you'll like that, Jared.
Yes, love that.
Oh, you mean in that gambling bet?
Yeah, my picks of the week. He's in my list.
I'm keeping him for the Tour Championship. I'm running out of good players, but I'm keeping him.
Well, the one and done, yeah, we'll get into that. One and done, that's, yeah, we'll have to, we'll get into that for sure. Who would you go with? Would you go with Homer or Spieth?
Yeah,
Jared.
Jordan Spieth has got a great imagination around the greens, which is great for the Briton. But I'm still going with Homer. I just don't know that Jordan is good for this golf course.
Yeah, I would go Homer too, despite Spieth's strong record at the Open. I do think that wrist might still be an issue for him because you're right, Greg. He hasn't been the same since he hurt it originally.
All right, let's go through. I'll tell you what, before we go through the field, I just want to ask you guys, Jan, what do you think? And I mentioned this to Jared because he doesn't watch the DP World Tour as much as I do, and I had mentioned to him that it's incredible how many events on the tour end the 18th with a par 5, which you don't see on the PGA Tour. I don't even know if there's a PGA Tour event that has a par 5 and 18. Do we? Are there any?
Yeah, they used to be. Trouble is that if they're older golf courses, they make them a par 4 now. So ones that were par 5s are now par 4s. It's not that many.
I don't even know if there is. I'd like to know if. But anyway,
Torrey Pines. That's par 5, isn't it? Over the pond.
Torrey Pines is a par 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we have a par 5 this week.
And Pebble Beach is a par 5.
Pebble.
Because they want you to birdie the last to win. That's on the LPGA. They tried to do that, and there was a design where that was always the case. But then, as things got into being handicapped, then when they were gambling or when they're playing club championships with handicap, then the advantage went to the person that had a stroke on the last hole, and so they tried to stop that and make it more equal. But I love a par 5 on the last because by then you know it is exciting to watch a birdie for sure win.
I mean, so you got to go from a par 3 on 17 to a par 5 on 18, which is.
No, I mean those might be 2 of the hardest holes. Well, the par 5 won't play hard to par, but I mean, there's the internal OB on the entire right side of 18, which is going to make it really interesting. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could definitely make bogey or double on that hole, I think.
Yeah.
Well, and we might see a comeback because out of the other majors, this is the one major where you can see comebacks in the final round. Matter of fact, 3 of the last 5 winners did not have the lead entering the final round. And if you look at it, let's see, last year, Cam Smith was 4 strokes down, I believe.
Yep.
Or was he? Yeah, I believe so. I think he was down by 4.
Yeah,
and Molinari.
It looked like it was Rory's. It was just between Rory and Hovland until the last few holes, and then And that's the hardest part is when having to, it's bad enough on a regular tour, but when you've got the lead in the major, it's such pressure. You got the media drive you nuts, and you've got an hour's worth of press conference, and it just gets you so hyped up that, it's a lot of pressure.
It was very similar to what we saw last week from McIlroy until the last two holes. He basically just almost everything was a par last
Yep.
year, and Smith was able to take advantage. Mickelson was 5 back in 2013, and Ernie was 6 back in 2012. So you can come from behind on the final day, and then you have a par 5 and 18 to boot. So maybe that'll come into play as well.
Well,
All right.
and weather's a big factor. If you get in, before the winds get up, sometimes, you never know in Europe, in Britain, but sometimes the winds will die down, which is weird, but usually it gets worse and worse as the day gets going. So it's kind of like what McIntyre did. He got in a little bit early, not much earlier, but it was enough before, they knew the winds were going to get more and more and more. So it's probably the one major where you can make up some big space.
You provided a link in our Discord channel, Jared. Jan, you haven't signed up yet. So it has the weather, how to get the weather forecasts. Have you checked it out yet, Jared?
Yeah. As of now, it looks pretty tame, relatively speaking. Saturday looks like there's some, wind, like 20 to 30 mile per hour winds on Saturday. But as of now, Thursday, Friday, Sunday look like 5 to 10 miles per hour. But again, it's only Tuesday afternoon. I would check back on Wednesday night to get something more accurate.
So if you
it does come in much more in Scotland and Ireland than it does in where they are in England, but it still comes in pretty. It can come in overnight, but it's definitely right now. It's typical. It's in the 60s and kind of squally and rainy. It's not. It's a perfect summer day.
All right, I'm gonna post our picks. There's my picks. I've got 6 picks, and then there are Jared's picks. He also has 6 picks. We've gone through them a little bit, so let's go down, and then I'll get your picks before we end the show. Jan, of course. Everybody knows my pick for my top pick for months, so no big surprise. And it really shouldn't be a big surprise with Fleetwood being my second pick, because I've been taking him. He's been getting close, so I got no reason not to keep up with him. You're going with Morikawa, though, Jared, as your top pick. So trying to win a second Open Championship.
Mm-hmm.
And he finally had a good showing a couple of weeks ago, and I guess that was enough for you to go with Colin Morikawa as your top pick.
Yeah, for starters, 35-1, I think, is an excellent number on Morikawa, a guy who's won 2 majors, including one of these. We've talked about it too, Greg. I think he hasn't had as bad a season as the results would show. He's still been a top 10 player in terms of ball striking stats. And then he was I wish he had played last week. I don't know why he didn't, because he played the Genesis the week before he won a couple of years ago. So I don't know exactly why he didn't play last week, but he was obviously awesome in his last start. When he came second to Ricky. So it definitely seems to be trending in the right direction. Again, I think it's a good course for him too. If it is a course where you need to be accurate off the tee, he's one of the best.
And he's better on slower greens too.
And then after, it seemed like once Jan dropped Tom Kim from her fantasy team, you started to play better.
I know. Really, I'm so mad at him, the one and done. He hadn't missed a cut, and I took him and he missed the cut. So I was mad at him.
Yeah. So, Jared, you're going with Tom Kim as your second pick this week at 65-1.
Yeah, I liked what I saw from. I liked what I saw from him last week. That's 2 strong showings at the Scottish Open these last 2 years. So, and he's another accurate player off the tee. So again, there's those internal OBs on 6 holes on this course, which are scaring me. So I really lean towards accurate players off the tee with my picks. At least most of them. One of them not so much. We can get to him later, but I think it's a good setup for Tom Kim, and he's another guy who was super hot, super trendy. like 8 months ago. It's kind of had a sort of disappointing season after those 2 wins late in 2022, but I think he's starting to trend back
Now,
up.
he hurt his thumb. He didn't say much about it, but he has hurt his thumb, and it's getting
Okay.
back to better. He didn't say anything about it, and one of the tour players told me that he'd had a bit of an injury with his thumb. So I was like, oh, I didn't know that.
Me either.
Our third choice. Matter of fact, I would have taken Corey Connors as well if you hadn't taken him. Because I don't know, I'm just getting the feeling that this has just been such a big year for Canada that maybe
Yeah.
they'll just the icing on the cake would be a major championship, and why not? Corey is starting to play also. I mean, he's been pretty consistent. He's got all those top 25s this year. Not as many top 10s as you like, but he's got to win, which is important. And, he's been playing pretty decently the last month. He was 28th here last year. So, and then my third choice is McIntyre because I'm going right back to him. I just think that he's red hot right now. His confidence is through the roof. And as you mentioned in the strokes gained, he's in that category for a reason. He's played this event 3 times. He has 2 top 10s, which is very impressive. And let's also consider that he was 12th in the Masters back in 2021. So he was already one of those players that everybody's kind of talking about, sort of like at the same. I mean, a little bit later than Fitzpatrick. I think he's that next in line guy that everybody's talking about. As far as Scotland and England and so forth, and maybe he's finally going to get to that point. But anyway, Connors is your third choice.
I like the McIntyre pick. He definitely owes you one after last week. Yeah, Connor's another guy who is top 10 in accuracy off the tee. Like the guy's going to hit fairways here. I like that. Pretty nice, Open history. He said 28th last year. He was 15th at the Open in 2021. I like the fact that he's been in the mix in a few majors. Obviously at the PGA, he was right there in the mix. He's been there at the Masters a couple times, so he has some experience. And 70-1 feels like a pretty good number on Connors.
Yeah, Connors. If we take a look, Kim, by the way, was 8th at the U.S. Open, I believe, earlier this year.
What were his odds?
Connors is 60-1.
No, Tom.
65. Kim. And Connors, his best showing this year, like you said, was that 12th at the PGA Championship at a major. Fourth picks. Home is my fourth choice at 60-1. You're going to go with Matsuyama. Now, this is a surprise. What's up? So you think he's just going to come out of nowhere, not playing well? Why do you like Matsuyama this week?
Well, when I first pulled up the odds on Monday morning, I was just surprised to see 80-1 next to Hideki Matsuyama. That just seems too high. And then I ran the numbers that I was looking at this week. Again, a lot of it is the accuracy off the tee. I think around the green game is going to be important. It always is at the Open. And Hideki comes in 4th in my model this week. So I'm just kind of trusting the numbers a little bit. And again, it's just 80-1 on a guy I just think's better than 81. He has a major under his belt. So I didn't expect to be betting Hideki Matsuyama for this tournament, but I couldn't pass up the 80-1.
That's how I felt about Homa. I didn't expect to take Homa, and then I just got into it a little bit and realized, as Jan mentioned, he's starting to play well again. And you know what? Again, like I said with Cam Smith, I don't think this is one of those majors, especially with how forgiving the fairways and the courses in general for a major. I don't think you really have to have a whole lot of great experience at this particular event compared to the other majors, because what do you think the winning score is going to be potentially on the par? What are we looking at, Jan?
15?
I would say how many?
15?
I was saying 12.
Okay.
Really? You think it's going to be tough?
I think they're going to toughen it up. I don't think they want it to look like like they did with the PGA. I think they want to have the scores. I mean, for the Open, they want to have the scores major, for like a major.
That'd be great. All right, and then here's the one we're holding up on. Jared's fifth pick. Yeah. I can't believe we're seeing this. Is Justin Thomas at 90-1. My fifth choice is Brian Harman at 90-1. So what's up with? I mean, this is just all odds. That's all this is, right?
Well, there you go. I mean, Justin Thomas and Brian Harman are the same odds. I get that Harman's been playing well and he has a pretty good Open history, but like JT to me is just way more talented. I've done a good job most of this year not taking these big numbers on Justin Thomas because we've seen it a lot. Right? There's been a lot of 50s and 60s on Thomas, and I haven't bet him for the most part, but I couldn't pass up this one. I'm hoping it's windy because Thomas is an awesome wind player, so I think the windier it gets, the better for Justin Thomas. I think he's a creative player, so I like that at the Open. And there have been some signs of life over the last few tournaments. It hasn't been consistent, but he's had rounds where he's been really good. So I'm gonna take a shot on him at 90-1.
Well, and plus the pressure's on to make the playoffs, and he's right on the border. So
pressure's on to make the Ryder Cup too. I mean, I would assume he's still on the team, but he's got to start playing a little better.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't just give it to him. He better start playing better.
No, I think he's definitely got some reasons to be playing well.
He's got the personal issues behind him now, right, Jan?
Pardon?
Personal distractions should be gone.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, a lot of people have said, "Oh, that doesn't matter," but definitely he's moved in. I mean, the pressure's on for them to have a kid because everybody else has had one. But I think he's ready to play. I mean, I know he's getting frustrated, so he has spent a lot of time on his putting, a lot of time. And one of the caddies said he's been out there working on his putting a lot. So this might be a good tournament for him because the greens are a little bit slower. He can be, he tends to be aggressive, which I like, but then he's been missing those 4-footers back. So now he won't have 4-footers. There'll be 2-footers. So it's probably a good bet, Jared, at this stage because he's putting in the time and it will pay off.
All right. We have 3 minutes to wrap up. By the way, Harman in his last 3 events, 12th, 9th, and 2nd, 6th in the Open Championship last year. So that's the reason for me. And in our last pick, our long shot, Siwoo Kim at 110-1 for Jared and Harrington at 180-1 for me. So for me, I've been mentioning this with Harrington lately, and he continues to play decent enough, especially at his age. In his 9 events on the PGA or DP World Tours this year, he's made 8 out of 9 cuts with 4 top 30s, 2 top 10s, and 1 top 5, 42nd last week. And for Siwoo Kim, what was the reason to go there? Because I actually had a pretty good feeling about him as well, but I wanted to know why you liked him enough to put him in your picks.
Yeah, another guy who looks good in the numbers I'm looking at this week. I mean, Siwoo's just had a really strong year. In the last 6 months, he's 7th in this field in strokes gained off the tee. He's 25th on approach. And this surprised me. Siwoo Kim is 1st in this field in fairways gained. So he's been the most accurate driver in this field, which again is something I'm looking at. Wow. He's a guy who's proven he can win some big tournaments even. So 110-1. I thought it was worth a shot.
And Jan, who are you going to go with?
I'm going with Kim. I mean, I really like the fact that Padraig is Siwoo Kim.
No. Who's your top pick this week?
Oh, you mean besides John Rahm?
Is John Rahm going to be your top pick?
Yeah.
All right. Then, go ahead and give me a long shot.
I want to see what is Patrick Reed.
He's a long shot. He is, he's all the way
70-1.
Yeah,
70.
Okay, I like Patrick. He's starting to play well. He's definitely got something to prove, and I think he's he played. What did he finish 3rd last week in England at the Live. So he's in the top 5 anyway. So I like the way he's got such a good short game. I love that he's one of those ones that he can do really good imagination shots. I've seen him in some positions that most people wouldn't be able to get up and down, and he's hit unbelievable shots. And you know what it's like with the links golf course in England. You get some shots where you may have to run it from 40 yards short of the green. So I like that he can do that imagination.
Jared, you have any other 100-1 players to mention that you're going to keep an eye on? You're going to go back to Jordan Smith maybe this week at 200-1?
Yeah, he played well. I don't like this course as much for him. Joaquin Niemann is 150-1.
Wow.
He intrigues me. He's an accurate driver. He hits those low balls.
He does. He's really a good wind player. What is Taylor Gooch?
He's 70, right?
Yes, 70-1.
That's a good number still for a guy who's won 3 times this year.
Yep.
Yeah.
I looked at Russell Henley too. Just another accurate driver. He's 100-1.
Well, he's on your stats.
He's been in the mix.
He's top on your fairways gained the last 6 months?
Yes, correct. Yep.
Siwoo, by the way, is 3rd on that list. And Morikawa 4th.
I think
and Tom Kim 8th. I see a pattern.
That's how I kind of built my card. I want accurate. I don't want to be messing with that OB this week. I want accurate drivers.
That's my main concern with John and with Dustin Johnson, who I've got in my one and done.
Yep.
You got Dustin Johnson, 1 and done,
Yeah.
Jan? Jared, who are you going to go with?
Morikawa in 1, and then I think I still have Brooks in the other, so I'm probably going to use him up.
Really?
Yep.
Morikawa and Koepka. And DJ for Jan. All right. So that is going to wrap it up. Jan, hopefully we'll talk to you maybe again, maybe Tour Championship time, playoff time.
Okay.
We'll get an opportunity to talk. You doing okay health-wise?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
That's awesome.
Playing golf every day now.
That's great.
Awesome.
Great to hear. And Jared, we'll talk soon. And again, because of the time situation, maybe there's a chance if our schedule works out, maybe we could do a show on Friday. So that's a possibility. We'll keep everybody posted on Discord if we can record a third round preview on Friday afternoon. So we'll talk again soon, Jared.
All right.
Bye, Jared.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Greg.